Forget everything you think you know about Vikings. Forget the horned helmets. They never wore them. Forget the idea that they were just mindless barbarians who did nothing but burn monasteries. If you actually stepped back into the year 850 AD to a place like Birka in Sweden or Hedeby in Denmark, you wouldn't find a chaotic war camp. You would find the most sophisticated trade network in Northern Europe. I used modern AI to reconstruct a day in the life of the Viking Age, not on a raid, but at the heart of their world. This is a society of explorers, master craftsmen, and shrewd merchants who connected Baghdad to Newfoundland, while the rest of Europe was cowering in the dark. This is 24 hours in the north. The day begins at 4 a.m. In the Scandinavian winter, the sun won't be up for hours, but you are. You wake up in a longhouse. This is the defining structure of the age. It's shaped like an overturned boat, about 30 meters long, with curved walls made of wattle and daub or heavy timber. The roof is thatched with turf or reeds, and it's low. You are sleeping on a raised earth bench lined with furs, bear, reindeer, or sheepskin. The first thing that hits you is the smoke. There is no chimney. There is just a central hearth, a long fire pit running down the middle of the room. The smoke drifts up and filters through a hole in the roof, but a lot of it hangs in the air. You have smoke eyes, a chronic condition from living in a barbecue pit your whole life. But the smoke isn't the only smell. At the far end of the longhouse, separated only by a low wooden partition, are the cows and sheep. In the winter, you bring the animals inside. Their body heat helps keep the house warm, so you wake up to the sound of cattle breathing and the smell of manure mixing with wood smoke. It's cozy, but it's filthy by modern standards. You climb out of the furs. You are wearing a linen undertunic and wool trousers. You wrap your feet in wool bands and step into leather shoes that are constantly damp. By 6 a.m., you step outside. The cold is brutal. Birka is an island town, a trading hub. The ground is frozen mud. You walk down towards the harbour, and this is where you see the genius of the Vikings. The ships. Drawn up on the beach are the longships, the Drakkar. These are the Ferraris of the Dark Ages. They are shallow draft, meaning they can cross an ocean, but also sail up a river only a metre deep. The sheer carpentry skill is insane. They split oak trunks radially, like slicing a pizza, to preserve the grain strength. The planks are overlapping, clinker-built, held together with iron rivets. They flex with the waves rather than breaking. You see men tarring the hulls. The smell of pine tar is the perfume of the Viking Age. Without it, the wood rots and the ship sinks. By 8 a.m., the market is open. And this is the biggest shock. You expect to see plundered gold from England, and sure, there is some of that, but look closely at what is being traded. You see a merchant weighing silver coins on a delicate balance scale. He isn't European. He's a trader from the East. The coins are dirhams from the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad. We have found more Arabic silver in Sweden than we have in some Arab countries. The Vikings were the FedEx of the medieval world. They traded furs, amber, and honey from the north for silver, silk, and spices from the east. You see a piece of purple silk from Byzantium being swapped for a walrus ivory tusk from Greenland. It is a global economy. But there is a dark side to this market. You walk past the pens at the edge of town. Thralls, slaves. The Viking economy ran on slavery. They raided Ireland, Scotland, and the Slavic lands. The word slave comes from Slav, and brought people back here. You see them being sold like cattle. It's brutal, it's visible, and it's everywhere. A wealthy jarl might own dozens of thralls who do the backbreaking work of farming and grinding grain, allowing the free men to go exploring. By 10 a.m., you head to the workshops. Vikings were obsessed with bling. You enter a beadmaker's hut. He is melting glass rods over a charcoal fire to create intricate, multicolored beads. Next door is the comb maker. He is carving antlers, shed by deer in the forest, into composite combs. This is a fun fact. Vikings were actually the best groomed people in Europe. Archaeologists find combs, ear spoons, and tweezers in almost every grave. The English chroniclers actually complained that the Vikings were stealing all the English women because they combed their hair every day and took baths on Saturdays. They were the pretty boys of the 9th century. By 12 p.m., it's time for the main meal, dagvadur. You head back to the longhouse. You sit by the fire and eat from a wooden bowl. What's on the menu? It's surprisingly good. You are eating herring, pickled or dried, because the sea is life. You have a stew made of barley and beans, flavored with wild garlic and mustard seeds. And you are eating bread, but it's flat and hard, made of rye. If you are wealthy, you might have some roasted pork, but the staple is skyer, a thick, sour yogurt that they have been eating for 1,000 years. You wash it down with weak beer or mead. Water is dangerous. Alcohol is safe. By 2 p.m., a horn blows. It's time for the thing. This is the assembly. Vikings weren't a lawless mob. They were litigious. They loved lawsuits. The thing was a meeting of all free men to settle disputes. You gather on a small hill outside the town. A law speaker recites the law from memory. They didn't write it down. You watch a dispute between two farmers over a property line. It's democratic in a rough way. But if they can't agree, it gets violent. You might witness a holmgang, a duel. A cloak is spread on the ground. The two men step onto it. If you step off the cloak, you lose. If you bleed on the cloak, you lose. Sometimes it's to first blood. Sometimes it's to the death. It was a legal way to settle an argument when words failed. By 4 p.m., the winter sun is already setting. The gloom returns. You head towards the burial mounds at the edge of the settlement. Religion here isn't about going to a church. It's transactional. You make a sacrifice, a blot, to get something in return. You see a group of men slaughtering a goat and sprinkling the blood on a pile of stones dedicated to Thor. They want a safe voyage for the spring raids. They wear pendants of Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. But interestingly, you also see a man wearing a cross. Christianity is creeping in. There are missionaries here. In 850 AD, you could find a Christian living next door to a pagan, both hedging their bets with different gods. By 6 p.m., the Great Hall comes alive. This is the center of social life. The Jarl, the local chieftain, hosts his warriors. The hall is huge, filled with smoke and the smell of roasting meat. This is where politics happens. The Jarl has to be generous. He is the ring giver. If he doesn't give enough gold and silver to his men, they will leave him for a more generous leader. You sit on a bench, drinking mead from a horn. It's sweet, potent, and sticky. A skald, a poet, stands up. This is their history channel. He recites a saga, a poem about a dragon slayer or a great battle. The poetry is complex, full of metaphors called kennings. He calls the sea the whale road. He calls a sword the battle icicle. The warriors cheer, banging their cups. This is how you become immortal. You don't go to heaven, you get remembered in a song. The goal of every man in this room is to die with a sword in his hand and a joke on his lips so the poets will talk about him forever. By 9 p.m., the drinking winds down or devolves into a brawl. You head back to your own longhouse. The night is terrifying. Vikings were superstitious. The dark wasn't just empty, it was full of monsters. They believed in Draugr, undead warriors who guarded their mounds. They believed in trolls and elves who weren't cute, they were dangerous. You bar the door, you check the fire. The wolves are howling in the forest, and in the winter they come right up to the walls. Lying in the furs, listening to the wind rattle the roof, you realize the duality of this life. It's brutal. The average life expectancy is maybe 40. A simple cut can kill you. The winters can freeze you to death. But it's also a life of incredible freedom. There are no kings telling you what to do yet. You can jump in a boat and sail to Kiev or Constantinople or Iceland. The world is open. They were farmers who became warriors because they had to. They were pagans who eventually became Christians. They were the terror of Europe, but they were also the people who connected it. As the fire dies down to embers, you drift off, knowing that in the spring, the ice will melt the ships will launch, and you will go searching for silver and glory on the whale road. That was the Viking Age.